Hello, Frank Sepe for Muscle and Fitness, and I have the privilege and honor to welcome Robert Wilkins, uh, military senior editor of Muscle and Fitness, and so many other accolades. He's on the President Council of Fitness, just a phenomenal guy. If you've been around IFBB, NPC shows, I mean, Rob's been back there. He knows his bodybuilding.
I do.
Rob, how did you get involved in bodybuilding? That's what I want to know. Because, like, obviously, you're in the military, you have a long military career. But how did you get involved in bodybuilding?
Right. First, thanks for having me, Frank. We go back a long time, so
Yeah.
I'm really, really honored to be here with you. I'm really pleased and really, it's great to see where you've come from. I remember you being on the cover of many magazines, and now how you've seen your talent, and you switched. You've gone from being a person that was talent was looking for to being a manager of talent and being a person who's influential and making sure that the message and the importance of bodybuilding is spread globally. So first of all, congratulations to you
Thank you, Rob.
on
Thank you.
that way of keeping active in the sport, but changing your role in the sport. Um, that was a good question, how I got involved. So I
Yeah.
was 1983, was living in West Germany, Prüm Air Station, which was in the Eifel region of Germany.
Mhm.
For those who are history fans, it's where Battle of the Bulge was fought. A lot of World War II battles were fought there. And being so far away from America at 19 years old, there were a few things we can do. There was one channel. This was prior to us having cell phones, of course, and
Yeah.
even prior to there being an internet that most people used. So the way to connect to America was that one channel, which is called AFN or magazines.
Hmm.
And the way I was connected was a magazine, Muscle and Fitness.
Oh, wow.
So Muscle and Fitness would come to our base every month, and I couldn't wait for it to come. I'd wait from the newsstands. It usually got there on a Thursday. So the last Thursday of the month is when it would arrive. And if it didn't come due to weather or because of some type of shipment issue, I was pretty disappointed. But I decided to write Ben and Joe Weider a Christmas card saying, I thank you for putting this magazine out and how much it means to us who serve our nation worldwide. And I was surprised that they both wrote me back.
Wow.
Joe sent me a Christmas card, but Ben sent me a Christmas card in a letter, and he stated, once you come back to the US, we'll make you an IFBB official and you can help me with the military. So I thought, that's not going to happen. Those are kind words.
Yeah.
And but what we did is we exchanged letters. Again, this is before the internet, so there wasn't email, there
Yeah.
were letters.
What did you say in that letter that got their attention that he automatically said, when you get out, I want you? What did you say?
I said that bodybuilding is part of the military. It's so important that we stay strong and stay fit and we exercise. And the image of us, our military, really really important. So I wanted to be fit. I wanted to wear my sleeves kind of tight and have muscles like you and show people like when you see an American service member, you're seeing a representative of our country, and we're strong and we're
Love
fit,
that.
and you don't want to mess with us. So that was the projection that I had, and I got that through bodybuilding and lifting weights.
We have the same passion for bodybuilding because when 1983, I probably started 83, 84. I started training because my dad was a New York City narcotics detective.
Mm-hmm.
And I used to sit on top of the basement stairs and I'd stare down, and my dad would be lifting weights, and they called him Tom the Arm because he
Right,
had such a big arm.
right.
And that always resonated with me. And I would watch his routine, and I would duplicate it and everything. And I would wait for Muscle and Fitness to come out, and I would buy it. And I remember all the covers like it was yesterday. Like,
Yes.
like they had all the great bodybuilders of the 80s on there. And I mean, it was just phenomenal. With me, it was just automatic. I just fell in love with bodybuilding, and
Right.
I haven't put down a bodybuilding magazine in 30 years. I was like, oh, this is cool. I'm still a big fan of bodybuilding today, and I know you are as well.
Right.
So did you compete? Did you get involved? How did you get involved with the IFBB?
So I never did compete,
Mhm.
but ironically, my wife, Amy Yanagisawa Wilkins, is a IFBB figure pro and fitness pro. She turned pro fitness actually
Oh wow. Okay.
at the 1999 or 98 USA. She competed with Kelly Ryan, and they tied. And Kelly beat her on a
I was there.
tiebreaker. Yes,
Flying Kelly Ryan.
that's right. That's right.
I was
Yes.
there, yeah.
So, but I never competed, but I always really enjoyed it because it was the thing that was always there for me. Like whenever you have to deploy, going from, combat zones to Iraq and Afghanistan and going to just other places. I had been to about 43 different countries. Fortunately, in every country, there had to be a gym, except Darfur. That's the only place I ever went. There wasn't a gym. But I always thought that when I saw these gyms, it brought me back to Joe and Ben, because Ben and Joe had both tried to get fitness centers and hotels and fire stations and police departments and all military bases. And thanks to their efforts and the contributions of the people they hire to work with them, this is now a norm. It's very hard to go to a hotel that doesn't have a fitness center,
Yeah.
at least exercise bikes and light dumbbells.
And one of the biggest misconceptions, and I'm sure you can help clear this up, is the facilities that the military now have for fitness and for wellness is just beyond what you can comprehend. Because every time you watch a movie, people are on ropes and they're jumping on mud puddles and everything else. Can talk about some of the facilities that they have and some of the programs that they now have for the military.
They are now world class. We are, the Army is leading the way in many aspects where they have this warrior athlete mentality, where their soldiers are being trained just like a world class athlete would be. So you have exercise physiologists, you have nutritionists, you have people who collect data points to make sure that the person is getting the most out of their body. You have all these experts in the human performance arena, making sure the men and women who protect our country are as physically fit as possible. And so there's a program called H2F. And you will learn more about H2F because I've been talking to the director and they want to speak with you as well. So you'll learn firsthand about the important role that the H2F program is playing in defense of the United States.
I've obviously, there's so many competitors now from the military competing in the IFBB Pro League and in the NPC. And, I had the privilege to talk to many of them.
Yes.
And the one thing that they have that's interesting, they don't complain. They're back there, like they don't complain. They're regimented, like Xavier Gaydon.
Right.
Like you talk to, like any of these guys, you talk to them, they're like, well, this is what I got to do.
That's right.
Like, it's just what I have to do, and I'm going to do it, and I'm going to do a regimented plan. Like the military prepares you, military prepares you for life,
right.
But you would never think that it would prepare you for bodybuilding, but it does.
It
like
sure
that.
Charjo Grant, he competed in the Olympia last year. I think it's men's physique. He actually had a college course that morning that he had to take. The morning of the Olympia now. This is not the day after or the day before. It's the morning of. So with all the stress in his body and all the things that he has to worry about to get his body to peak, he had to take this course because that was one of the agreements that they made with him, that as long as that he would keep up with his schoolwork as he prepared for the Olympia, he would be able to go. Well, Charjo finished 12th. Can you imagine? You finished 12th in the world with all that other stuff going on. And it just goes to show you that the talent that the men and women who serve our great nation have. And I expect if Charjo ever doesn't have to do school on the same night as his Olympia, his placings will be even better.
We were just joking around before we weren't recording that I said everybody that we have to shoot or we're working with in the military, they're always on time, which is great. They're never late. They're always there, very respectful, which is, phenomenal. Now, Dan Solomon, President, Muscle and Fitness, Chief Operating Officer of the Olympia, and Jake Wood, owner of JW Media, which, is pretty much everything.
Right.
They've been very, very, adamant about helping the military and, and helping you get the Fit to Serve column in Muscle and Fitness, right? And putting together these programs that we're currently working on, which I'm completely honored and privileged to do so. So talk about some of the things that we have coming up for Muscle and Fitness.
So since you mentioned Dan and Jake, we couldn't do what we do without their support. So we really, really appreciate it. And it's basically, what do you need from us? There's not many questions asked. Normally I have these long emails that I send to them and I'm not even sure if they read it. They just say, okay, we're good. Let's go. Let's make it happen. And even this weekend, we have the Armed Forces. Since 1988, the NPC has been holding the Armed Forces National Championships, and this weekend they're going to be held in Alexandria, Virginia. We asked Dan last year, would they send a crew and someone to cover the competition? And of course, he says, of course we'll do that. And actually, if the weather holds out, Dan will actually be here this year with us because he wants to show his support to the men and women who serve our country. So it's just tremendous. We have done over 40 profiles on mostly military, but we have done a few police officers, and we're looking to do an expanded role where we do more firefighters, but also folks who are helping those with, we don't call them disabled, we call them differently abled. So people who have physically challenged, we want to start making a broader spotlight on them and thanking them for what they're doing for those folks. And we can thank them by highlighting their stories, talking about their business, and letting them know, or letting our fans know. We have 18 million people who follow us through all of our social media, that we are trying to change lives through physical fitness. Again, back to Joe and Ben, that was their dream. They wanted people to be treated with, to be fair, to give everybody an opportunity. And as Joe says, he always wanted to feel strong when he went into something, but being strong also gave him confidence that he can do just about anything. And Ben used physical fitness and bodybuilding as a diplomat, to way to break down barriers and to get people who are from different backgrounds and different countries to come together, to unify. And if you've ever seen the Parade of Nations at an IFBB competition, it's where a person carries a flag of their nation. In some cases, it's up to 100 nations.
Wow.
And they're all together. And the one thing we have in common is we're all bodybuilders. And it's just a really beautiful thing. It's just great.
Now, for people who don't know, Ben Weider served in the military in Canada, correct? Like
he sure did. He served World War II, and that's another way that I think that him and I were able to hit it off, because we understood what service was like, and he would share some of the secrets, well, not secrets, some of his past about what he did in the military, and he truly understood what I was going through as I was serving during the time that we were together, which was about 20 years.
I remember in the offices of Woodland Hills, the Weeders, they had some of the great like sculptures and stuff from the military, right? I mean, you couldn't go into the lobby. They had the horse,
right?
It was just amazing stuff that they had. So
yes, incredible. They were really proud of all men and women from whatever nation you were from, as long as you were our ally, who served their country. And often we would be backstage for the Olympia during the playing of the national anthem, and Ben would look at me and go, every time he heard those words between "Oh Canada" or the national anthem of the USA, he would get a tear in his eye, because he knew that somewhere around the world, men and women were standing guard to make sure that we were able to enjoy the safety of where we're at and have fun at the Olympia. So he always made sure that whenever possible, we gave them tickets. We've given about 13,000 free tickets to the Olympia to military personnel since 2001.
That's incredible.
Yes.
You know, just the local gym here, I've run into probably 3 or 4 different people who served in the military, served in Afghanistan, who asked me, "Are you going to the Olympia?
Right.
You think Big Rami's going to win? You think that?" Explain how big bodybuilding is in the military and how they look up to these competitors and how, you know, they look forward to these shows, because I don't think people really understand that. They look at some of these people like rock stars, like it's, you know, because I've come across on a smaller scale, but.
Right. Well, I think almost wherever you're stationed, there are weights. But there might not be a gym. There might not be a basketball court or a volleyball court, but there are weights. And, you know, many, especially the younger troops, they're really into developing these amazing looking physiques. But it's not just for the look. It's because they are soldiers or airmen or Coast Guardsmen, where, you know, where you need this kind of strength. You need this ability to persevere and push through when times get tough. We recently covered 2, a Coast Guardsman and a Navy sailor, who were the respective sailor and Coast Guardsman of the Year, awarded by Military Times. And it was because they saved up to 5 lives in one occurrence. So to have the strength to swim more than 200 yards against fighting currents, to grab a person, take them back, then swim again, take the next person back, over and over and over for about 90 minutes. One of these men did this. It was because he had been working out for his entire life. And that workout and all those workouts over the last 20 years had prepared him for this time when he needed it more than ever to be physically fit. So that's why we call him fit to serve.
You said before the key word with the military was performance. So it's
Yes.
not just about big muscles because I remember two guys in the gym in the morning. They both served in the military, great guys. And they would go back and forth between the bench press and the pull up and do about 30 sets,
Right.
no rest, back and forth, no problem. Then they go on a treadmill, run full speed for like, on 8.5, 9.0, break a sweat. Like amazing endurance, amazing muscular stamina, like just incredible shape. Like you could equate it to a boxer, because they run and everything else. Like when when bodybuilders come to the base, are some of the officers like you guys can't have big muscles like this? You have to because you guys have to perform. Is there anything like that they can't do, or there's something that's like is that stated, or is just
No, I think if you think about two of the best IFBB champions, David Henry and the late Cedric McMillan,
yeah,
they're pretty big guys and they were big in uniform. So I think there's functional strength.
yeah,
And I know for sure, both of those guys were able to do whatever the job that the military job required them to do. They were
mhm.
able to do it with those big muscles.
So they
So
reassign you.
yeah, so
You got the big gun.
they were ready. They're always ready. They are ready to do whatever is required of them in the performance of their duties, because that's the first and most important thing. Is when you're in the military, while you might be an IFBB pro or you might be an influencer, the most and first thing is you serve your country.
One of the thing that sticks in my head the most is Ronnie Coleman as a police officer in that
Right.
uniform. Like, could you imagine Ronnie Coleman pulling you over
Yes.
on the side of the road? Like,
Right.
just frightening. But
Yeah, it is something else. I'm not sure if you'd been able to chase somebody down, but
uh, pull a
you know,
hammy.
that's right. But he was an imposing figure. And it's also good for the service to have such figures. Like these men and women, they do great things for our country, but they also are representatives of, right now our nation is faced with an obesity epidemic. About 66% of the folks are young people who are eligible to serve because of their age cannot serve. And out of that reason they can't serve, obesity or lack of physical activity is the number one reason. And in such a rich country like we have here, it's almost hard to believe that so many people cannot serve our country. And if they can't serve our country, more than likely they won't be able to be police officers, firefighters, first responders, and eventually it would get to the corporate 500 companies, because a sick employee is an employee who's not at their workstation or who's not performing for the company.
Yeah.
So it's fit to fight for the service, but it's also fit to do business as well. You have to be fit enough to be a great employee or a good enough employee so that your employer doesn't lose money just because of you not being available.
Of course. And in here in New York, we're trending down because back in the day when you had to take the fire department test,
Mhm.
it was daunting. Like it
Right.
was a big thing. Now it's not as as physically hard, and even they 25% body fat, whatever it was. The body fat percentage has gone up that they're allowing and stuff, which they shouldn't, because you're right. Because if you're going to perform your duty, you want to perform it at your best.
Right.
So in order to perform at your best, you got to be mentally and physically, sound. So how could you do a job where you can't, like you just said before, how you could chase somebody or
Mhm.
do this? Like, do you feel like, as far as military, they already know how to train, or by sending IFBB Pro League bodybuilders and fitness influencers there, that we can add something to the programs that they already have?
I think that's possibility to do both. They know
Yeah.
what to do. The Our pros can give us some lessons, but
Mhm.
again, the military is now hiring professionals who are data driven, evidence based to
Yeah.
train us, to make sure that and then when I say us, it's also they're starting to work with the veterans and the retirees and their families, because it's a community, it's the military community.
Yeah.
And so Healthcare costs will continue to rise unless we start doing better things with nutrition,
Absolutely.
physical fitness, mental health. So we have a spiritual part, we have a mental part, we have the physical part, we have the financial part, we have the emotional component as well. So trying to get uh, all those items under one umbrella
Hmm.
makes a very complete, healthy person. And with healthcare costs, you know, approaching
Skyrocket.
trillions of dollars, we need to
Skyrocket.
find ways to cut them because it's not sustainable.
1000%. What's coming up? Let people know what's coming up in November for Muscle and Fitness.
So muscle and fitness, we're going to be trying to do as much as we can to highlight the importance of those who serve. You know,
Absolutely.
November 11th is Veterans Day, but for muscle and fitness, it's going to be November is going to be Veterans Month. It's going to be
Again.
all about veterans and how we can share your stories and share your photos and tell the world how great you are. And thank you for what you do for our country, because without the support, without the freedoms you provide, we can't do what we do. So let's not give them all our secrets, Frank. Let's make some of this a little bit of surprise. But thanks again to your efforts and support of Jake and Dan. We're going to tell as many stories as we can. And we want to make sure that those who serve our country get opportunities as well. If there's an ambassadorship that
Hmm.
they can do for a company, if a company is looking for a spokesman or a spokeswoman, we want to say, hey, these military folks are just as capable. Um,
Not only
and give
that,
them an opportunity too, because they also have large social media following. So, we can't do enough for them, but we will give them our best efforts.
and from a social media standpoint, you have to realize too, just like the IFBB Pro League and NPC, the muscle and fitness community, I'm sure everyone's inspired by people that we put up, but the military also inspires us, and your
Yes.
story inspires us. So if you're in the military and you want to DM us your story or send a picture, go ahead. You might find yourself on Muscle and Fitness on the platform, because you have to realize that we look up to the military as well.
Mhm.
And again, very inspiring stories, and we love that we have the Transformation Tuesday. I would love to see some of the transformations from the military when you were going in, when you were coming out. I'd love to see your story, your personal story, because you will inspire everybody on our platform besides people in the military. And I think that's just a great thing to create awareness for the individual and the totality of our community.
Right.
You know?
Well, it's a great thing because military people, I think we really love being parts of communities.
Hmm.
The military community I don't have to know you that well, but once I find out you're a vet, we already have something in common. In some way, we will find something that we have in common. We'll have probably many things in common, like, did you serve in Iraq? Did you serve in
Yeah.
Afghanistan? Did you serve in Germany? How do you like Korean food? Like all these things that we've tried as members of the military, they they help build relationships and tear down barriers. And I think it's a great thing. The military, just like the gym, just like the
Yeah.
bodybuilding community, allows people who are of different thought, different mind, different
Very
dress.
diverse backgrounds.
They're
Yeah.
accepted. Can you lift? You got a great secret related to bodybuilding, or how about what's your nutrition plan? And one of the great, just like yourself, there's a guy, Michael Hearn. You
Yep.
and Mike have been friends for a long, long time.
Very
You've been
long.
on, probably between the two of you, close to 1,000 covers. But he just contacted me recently. Mike and I have a 30-year relationship, and I call him my baby brother. But he said, whatever it takes, I want to go to basis on my own dime, and
Hmm.
let's go. I want to go and say, I support you. I know freedom is not free. I want to do things for the troops. And his company, BPI, through Whitney Reed, they're donating a whole bunch of supplements that we're going to be giving out to military bases here in the DC area. And again, it's just because they want to do it. Redcon One did things of this nature.
Yeah.
The Weeder family has for years donated so much. Uh, Eric Kilman, when he had Europa, he would donate. And the Prez himself, Jim Mannion, would always say, what do you need? So
Yeah.
he would send me baskets of t-shirts and hoodies and sweatpants and all these things. And, we would send these thank you letters, and Jim says, I don't need it. That's all I need,
That's
to
it.
have this thank you letter from a military person who's stationed wherever they're at around the world. Just showing their appreciation for his donation or his, as he said, my small contribution. Jim had a nephew who was in the Army. And so Jim also was a great supporter of those who served. And, the military community appreciates what the IFBB and the NPC communities have done for them.
A couple of years
My
back,
involvement over the last 30 years.
yeah, a couple of years back, Jim worked on a program with FitOps and
Yes,
allowed anybody from FitOps to compete for free.
right,
So waive the registration fee, waive the
right.
NPC card fee, which is phenomenal. But it's funny you're talking about sense of community. My son, everywhere I would go with my son, if someone has muscles, he goes, "Dad, you know that person."
That's
Dad, you know
right.
that person. They turn around and like they give you the nod, or they'll like, oh, I competed in a show, and you start talking to them. So
Mhm.
it's just funny, like the little communities with, and it doesn't matter, which is great about bodybuilding. It says it doesn't matter if you're from Egypt or from Africa or from Italy or whatever. Everybody's, Brazil, China. Everybody's like a big family, which is great. You go to a show and to see everybody from all over the world and competing is just phenomenal. Especially the Mr. Olympia, the best and the best is there. But that's just amazing.
Yes, often people, they're not even speaking, they're not communicating through words. It's a lot of eye contact, a lot of on the shoulders, a lot of hugs. Like
Yeah.
you don't need words sometimes to communicate that way because people understood you're a bodybuilder, I'm a bodybuilder, so we'll hug it out,
The
or
brothers in iron. That's what they
that's
use
right, we
for
are,
brothers in
brothers in iron.
iron.
That's a great term.
Think like we were talking about Mike O'Hearn. Like Mike's coming up here in a couple of weeks, and we're going to be doing some stuff for Muscle and Fitness, and obviously, if there's anything for the military we can do, obviously we'll do. Freedom comes at, people think they just take advantage of the sense that we're a free nation.
Mhm.
I don't get it, but okay, that's another topic. But
Right.
I don't.
Well, sometimes people don't know what they have until they don't have it. And I often heard
Good
that
point. Yeah.
because of COVID, people now understand what it is to be restricted a whole lot more
Yeah.
because when you couldn't move, when they couldn't do what they wanted to, when they even couldn't go to the gym. I mean, gosh, the gym community was such an important component to so many people's lives. They now appreciate it a lot more. And while freedom is not free, there's different ways to serve. You're serving your nation by what you do to help police officers and firefighters and us who serve in the military. Same with Mike. There's people who serve in different capacities, but it's still service. It's still a way of giving back to the men and women who protect and defend this great nation. And, like I often heard, people aren't dying to get out, but they're dying to get in.
Yeah.
This is such a great nation, and all the problems we have,
It's true.
it's still the shining light on the top of the hill that people are still saying, I want to go to America, no matter what. That's where I want to
1000%.
go.
1000%.
Mhm.
We're going to end here because this is part one. We have a lot coming up
That's
with
right.
muscle and fitness and everything. But once again, we want to give a huge thanks to Dan Solomon and Jake Wood for letting us, do this for muscle and fitness and helping us with all the programs and stuff for the military. Rob?
Thanks, Frank. I look forward to speaking to you. Look forward to doing some great activities, going to some bases and some military installations. And our goal is to get to the Pentagon. They have one of the world's most or best equipped fitness facilities, one of the biggest. And you never know what four-star general you may see in there, or even the Secretary of Defense themselves. So that's our goal, is to get there and share their story about the importance of physical fitness to the defense of our great nation.
And I can't wait to hear these stories and bring them to fruition on what muscle fitness with yourself, of course. And thank you, Rob, for letting me be a part of this as well. And thank you for your time. This is part one. Stay tuned for part two. Thanks again, Rob. Appreciate it.
My pleasure. Good night, everyone.
Night.